But the reality is that by starting in any capacity, you learn so much and things shift and change. The culture changes, the world changes, what is needed, what you can see works, what doesn't work. All of those things are so valuable to what you guys are building.
I have to keep believing. I have to keep up the momentum. I have to keep aligning myself with filmmakers that are forward thinking, who can be ambassadors for the future. Who's more serious than you, babe? You can't do this and be like, hi, I'm Selena. Be the fucking train, bitches.
Welcome back to another episode of Be the Train podcast. I am super excited for our guest today, Jackie Brenneman, who is actually one of the founders of the Fithian Group, which is the company that we partnered with to get into 250 theaters nationwide. So obviously we'll be talking about that, but also Jackie is a brilliant writer and she made a musical that might be my favorite musical that I've ever seen. So we have to talk about that too. Anyway, Jackie, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Yay.
I think this is my first video podcast, like live. I've maybe Zoom, but like I don't think I've ever done a podcast like this before.
Oh, isn't this fun?
This was very fun.
Yay. So, okay, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and then I'll ask you some fun questions.
Okay, so as Selena said, I'm a founding partner of the Fithian Group, which is three of us that used to be at what is now called Cinema United, but was called the National Association of Theater Owners, or NATO, for many, many years. And at NATO, I was the executive vice president and general counsel. So I was second in command, had oversight over I touched kind of everything. Yeah. And then I also started the Cinema Foundation during the pandemic, which was a way to really bring the whole industry together, because so much of the theatrical industry feels siloed and fragmented and as though, you know, what a studio might want and what an exhibitor might want end up being at odds when they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And so the idea was, why don't we have a place where we can all come together and where any data we have is data that everyone cares about, everyone can see, it's transparent, and we can work together also on things that can promote and grow the business. So I worked on those things. And then when I left NATO, my former CEO and my former head of comms, John Fithian and Patrick Corcoran, respectively, and I joined forces. And we initially thought we would just do kind of consulting work. And very quickly we realized if we cared about growing the business, the problem was structural. So the solution also had to be structural. So we set out to build the structural solution to the theatrical industry. You know, it's a little tiny thing.
No big deal.
Not a big deal. Really,
no big deal.
Don't worry about it.
Well, in terms of being the train, there is no small feat, no bigger train than that. Now that's incredible. It's a very hard, big thing you guys are trying to do. Let's just talk about it for people who maybe are not in the film industry as well, anyone in terms of how they can understand it. What do you think is the biggest problem, or like maybe the top 5 biggest problems, and how are you guys trying to solve it with Attend? Yeah. Attend is the name of the company.
Yes. So like I said, the problem is structural.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for people that are outside of the industry to understand. They know that when they go to a theater, they don't feel like there's enough movies for them, right? And they get, I get people telling me all the time, for example, like, hey, I just went to go see the X big movie and I wanted to see it on IMAX or a premium screen. And it's only been out for a week. Why can't I find it? And it's because there are a lot of business practices in the theatrical space that don't make sense with a modern digital business. And so what I mean by that is that for 100 years, it cost $2,000, let's say, that's a rough number, to put a movie into a theater, right? You had a film reel, it was really heavy. You literally had people bicycling it from one theater to the next. That's where you got those dollar runs and the movie would be scratchy by then. And so when you have these really expensive fixed costs, and you've got like family, there's a lot of competition in the market with different exhibitors. Movie theater owners are exhibitors in our lingo. And you've got the studios really competing because they've got a lot of movies. You have a lot of business practices come up. You have things like what used to be called clearances, where a movie, if one theater got it, then the studio wasn't allowed to give it to another theater within 50 miles, let's say. And you had clean screens. So a studio gives a movie to a theater, and they don't want that film reel changing theaters, right? That is playing all show times all day. But now we're in a digital business. It costs $50 to put a movie on screens. You should be able to do that instantly. Should be able to program all the time, very dynamically. But still, everything that's being done is being done with phone calls and spreadsheets and old business models. And we have not adapted and evolved the industry to meet the digital age
standard, yeah.
Right? We're not meeting audiences where they are. When we're looking at movies, where they should go, we look at what are called comps. So we look at where we decide what movies are similar, and which is a kind of arbitrary practice. You decide what movies are similar, and then you look at where they did well, and that's where you put the movie. But the problem is you can't grow the market if you're only looking backwards, right? And we can talk about this in more detail, but for example, I'm working on a movie right now that wants to play in the heartland, and it also targets older audiences. So we looked at some movies that were really successful with older audiences, and we also wanted to tie it to certain markets that we knew this movie would play really well in because of the demographics. And we could not find a theater in those cities in the comps, because most of the time these like more platform releases, smaller movies, prestige titles only play on the coasts and major markets. And so the key Rust Belt cities were completely left out. And so we have all of these diverse practices. There's nothing. There's no comps. We dealt with this a lot with your movie. If you're an independent film, the studios have so much control over the screens. Like I said, they demand these clean screens. And so if you've got 10 screens and the studio wants you to have 4 of those taken up with their movies, you have very little inventory. So most of the movie theater owners don't make decisions on, especially independent titles, until Monday for a Friday opening.
Yeah.
And if you don't have $40 million to spend on marketing nationwide, you need to really target your marketing.
Yeah.
But you can't target marketing if you don't know your markets.
Yeah.
And so that is a huge, it is, and it seems like duh.
No.
But it is a huge problem that affects every independent filmmaker in this business.
Yeah.
The exhibitors agree with us, but they haven't been incentivized to really change their practices.
So I'm curious about that. Why, what would be an incentive to change their practice? Or what would be a reason? Because I would think as an exhibitor that I want more people to buy tickets because I'll make more money.
Right.
So to me, I would think, oh, that's an easy incentive. I'll just know sooner so that the filmmaker can go do their job, market their movie, and then I'll get more ticket sales because more people will show up because that marketing money will have gone to the people who want to go buy the tickets with more time.
Yes.
How come that's not the case?
So you think about it as a business owner, you run a movie theater company, and your job as the owner is to figure out how to use that budget on personnel and operations. So you're going to hire people to fit the jobs that you know you need, right? And so you're going to have people that are doing the booking, but their job is to book in accordance with the way booking is done by the key suppliers that you have, right? And that's a full-time job already, and there's already a team to do that. You need to hire new people to learn how to do the business differently. You need to be able to have a plan for testing things out. And in order to do that, you need to have the right people in place. And so it's really hard on a theater by theater level. We're able to have these conversations, and we're so fortunate that my partners and I have the trust of exhibitors, and they really know that we have their best interests at heart and we care about this industry as a whole. And so they are working with us to make these changes, but we have to go to the CEO level.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I have all the empathy in the world, and I understand that this is going to be slow. But it is in everyone's best interest to start investing in innovating, investing in finding the new and supporting those movies.
Well, and I think even like, you know, on a super basic level, and it sounds stupid, but say, for example, it's like you want to lose weight and look good, right? But you have to eat well and work out every day, right? And it sounds simple, but but the reality is you have to actually change your life. And so, no, and so that's like when I think about the exhibitors, I'm like, as stupid as it sounds, it's like, because to me, it's so obvious that they should just do it different, but it would require doing things differently and then like having a different system in place and restructuring the system that currently exists. And it's like about starting that entire process, right?
But luckily, we are not diet and exercise. We are Ozempic.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is invest in it. If the industry invests, then actually it's automated. It'll do the work for you. You actually can like not do all that work. Who needs all that work? It's so hard.
I mean, I think we all just want Ozempic.
We are the Ozempic. Screw all of that. But that's the thing. Like, if we can't, the problem is there's random independent films that are being able to succeed. There's all these little piece by piece success stories, but there's no infrastructure in place. You have to rebuild it every time.
Every time.
And that takes diet and exercise. Yeah. And diets fail. Diets fail. You gain the weight back. But that succeeds. So we have to build that. And pharmaceuticals are expensive. Takes a lot of research and development. You need millions of dollars. But then once it's there, you can lose weight at scale and sustainably. So yeah, we're the Ozempic of
also, we are sponsored by Ozempic. No, I'm totally kidding. We're not. I actually work out every day. It's so sad. I wish I was just on Ozempic.
I do both.
Anyway.
You need a good butt.
So back to the Beat the Train. I understand what you guys are kind of working on, and we'll go back to that in a minute. I want to talk just a little bit about what does Be the Train mean to you, and how do you feel like you guys have been the train in this particular dynamic, and then we'll talk about your musical too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, someone told us, when we're talking about investment, that everyone wants to be the first to be second in line.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find people that are willing to take a risk, people that are willing to stick their neck out and support you. And if you're the kid of a billionaire, you go to your parents' friends and they invest in your company. And it's really easy to succeed in that way, at least succeed in raising seed funding. But if you don't have access to that kind of capital, it's a challenge. And it's a real challenge with what we're doing because there is a bias against theatrical across the entire landscape, right? Consumers feel like, if you talk to any consumer, they'll tell you like, oh yeah, theatrical's dying and I love theaters, we should save theaters, but they'll have like their litany of negative thoughts about theatrical.
Okay.
And so it's this, if you're going to investors, you're trying to get them to invest in something that everyone's kind of down on a cultural level, that's hard. And we have the opportunity to wait for investment, or we have the opportunity to say, okay, fine, we don't have all the tech that we want yet, but we're going to keep pushing forward. And so that was, we partnered with you before having any tech in place without knowing what to do, except for we knew who to call, right?
Yeah. And
we were like, well, we're not proving our tech, but we're learning something from this. And even now we've got 2 more movies coming out before we have the tech in place. We got to a proof of concept. We got a company to get a grant from AWS for $75K. So we've got a proof of concept, and now we're going to do 2 more movies, and we're doing it still without the tech, but we're going to keep learning.
Yeah.
Because if we wait for the investment, if we just sit around, then the investment will never come.
Yeah.
And there are always going to be people who are like, oh, well, I mean, what a 10's trying to do sounds really great, but I don't know. And that's fine. And I get it. People are fear-based generally.
Yeah.
But there are going to be people that want to say yes.
Yeah.
And so I have to keep believing. I have to keep up the momentum. I have to keep aligning myself with filmmakers that are forward thinking, who can be ambassadors for the future. You know, you are doing so much to tell people how hard it was to put your movie in theaters, but you got your movie in theaters, and that was the metric for success right there.
Yeah.
And that happened. And you know, all of the challenges we faced we need to be transparent about so that we can keep doing better. But every filmmaker we're working with is an ambassador. Every filmmaker we are partnering with in the beginning are entrepreneurial and not afraid of that challenge, and also very willing to do the hard work it takes to treat your film like a business.
Which is what it is. I think your film, not only is your film a business, but I think the whole film business is changing.
Yes.
And I don't think it's enough to just be a filmmaker. I think you have to be an entrepreneur to some degree. And I think that what you guys are doing is actually really smart, in my opinion, because most people with a business idea, any business idea, most people are sitting around waiting for funding. And most people will wait a very long time before any money comes. But the reality is that by starting in any capacity, you learn so much, and things shift and change. The culture changes, the world changes, what is needed, what you can see works, what doesn't work. All of those things are so valuable to what you guys are building. So 100% by the time all the money pours in, there will be so much more information about how all the structures need to be put into place, because you're actually already in motion.
Yes.
And I think that the biggest thing that I see, and the biggest thing that I advocate, which is why I wrote this book and why it matters to me so much, is that we're so scared to get into motion because we don't know where we're going. But no one knows where they're going. And without getting into motion, you can't get anywhere. It's impossible to arrive if you don't start.
Yeah, and people and I think a lot of people are not primed for rejection.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I was not resilient by nature, right? I was someone who believed that if I were smart and talented, that everything I did would be perfect the first time. I would get an A without trying. And so I actually thought if I didn't get an A, I failed. Or if someone wanted to give me edits on something, that I was a bad writer or whatever it was. And so I set out to never have, my goal was to have no edits. My goal was to never get a B, right? And that's the wrong goal.
Yeah.
And I've learned that over time and realized that, you know, every time you get a no, or every time you get feedback, it makes you stronger as a person, and it makes you more resilient. It makes you more talented. It makes you, you know, like really lean into what you're good at, and also embrace the things that you're not as good at naturally, and realize that those things can be learned. You could actually like get, you know, talent and effort are often thought of as a binary, you know, and if you've got talent, you don't need effort. And if you've got effort, if you put in effort, it's because you don't have talent. And that's a lie.
I agree. I think if you both
lie.
even stand a chance.
Yes. I am so glad that you know, I've been through enough really hard things that now I know I can, right? And now I know that a no isn't personal.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of no's are, I cannot convert them to a yes yet. But of course, once you have success, everyone that was a no wants to be at your door the next day, right?
100%.
So there's a lot of people, especially people that are uncomfortable with rejection, are also uncomfortable saying yes.
Yeah.
Because they want to know that you're succeeding first, because they don't want to invest in something that might make them look bad.
100%. People also, I think a lot of times, jump behind something they think is already, that someone else has already,
Right.
You know.
Because then then they're aligning themselves with something successful.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid of making a mistake.
Yeah.
And an investment can be a mistake.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are people that are very comfortable just dumping money into things, and okay, if like some of these investments hit and some don't, but that's a very small percentage of the population. It's not even a big percentage of the population of people with money.
Yeah.
A lot of people with money are scared to do the wrong thing.
We need to find you guys some billionaires.
I know.
So where should we go? No.
Find a pool to hang out with.
Yes, exactly.
We'll get our Ozempic shots.
Exactly.
At the pool.
um, no, but I do think though that yes, there's a lot of rejection in being an entrepreneur in any capacity, and then at the same time, there is the more you put yourself out there, and the more you try, and the more you figure out what you're doing. And the more, because by the way, even your pitch gets refined.
Sure.
You get better at knowing what you want and what you're saying and what the value is. Just because you're doing it so often, you're figuring it out.
Yeah.
And so it's like, eventually, it's going to work. And I think that one of the hardest things in my mind is not giving up. And I'm curious what your thoughts are, or if you have any advice for anyone listening. Like, what do you do in those moments where you do feel like giving up? Because I feel like that's something that comes up a lot, that I hear a lot of people in creative entrepreneurship kind of struggling with. And I get it because I feel it a lot.
I mean, look, not everyone is supposed to be an entrepreneur.
I agree.
I think that's a really important thing. Like, I don't think being an entrepreneur is the best lifestyle, the most aspirational kind of.
It's like dieting and working out. No kidding.
Right. Like, it's not for everyone. And I think, like, I joke, but I don't joke that, like, there are a lot. I want to be like a trad wife. Like, it would be easier. That's what I wanted, right? Like, there's a very specific behavior. There's a very specific way to be, way to look, what to do. I would, and it's like, it would make my husband so happy. I think he'd be so happy. I'd be really good at it. I am dedicated. I would get an A, okay? But, like, I can't want that. Like, I can't actually want it, right? So I've always been a builder, right? Like, no matter what, my entire life, like, when I was, like, a kid, I, like, made kids in my neighborhood put on plays. I wrote the neighborhood newspaper. I was the schemer, right? Like, and I did that. Like, it started clubs. I moved to New York to open a restaurant. Like, I like to be a founder. I like that. And I always did it in a way that was safe. I founded nonprofits because I was never going to make money, right? I put a lot of time and effort into founding things that I made $0 off of, but it felt safe. And trying to be a founder of something that is supposed to be my livelihood is terrifying. I've got kids, like, I've been the breadwinner. And so some people, they can do it and they have the stomach for it. It's great if you have a job that lets you moonlight. And I think more jobs should be open to that. Just generally, like, unless you're going to guarantee that person, like, if they're under contract for 10 years and you're going to guarantee them that income for 10 years, no matter what, you should be open to letting people moonlight because you're not loyal to them. So let them have that in a safe way. But yeah, I mean, I think people really should have those deep thoughts and understand that quitting might be what's right for you, but sometimes the quitting is just fear. And if it's just fear.
So how do you know, like, how would you know, or how could you check in on something like that? Not that you're, a psychologist, but I'm just curious.
No,
what you think.
I think it's who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Right? Like, is that research shows, right? We are the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with.
Yeah.
So you need to be really careful about who those 5 people are.
Yeah.
And you need to have the 5 people in your life that you spend the most time with and you trust the most be people that are always looking out for your best interest and believe that you are capable of success. And so they are going to be there to say, I know you're afraid. I know that, like, money is tight or whatever is happening, but you're, like, the person, you can crush this and I believe in you. Or, like, maybe you should step back, and you have to be able to get advice from people. I don't think we should find that in ourselves. I think, we all have kind of a gut feeling about things. And I don't always believe in trusting your gut. I think
interesting.
I think
you're the first person that said that.
Yeah. I think it's a nice thing to say. I think our guts tells us
liars.
No, look, I think our gut tells us what we want to want, right? Like, I think it's like when you believe in, like, when you're feeling like the universe wants this for me, you're going to find signs. I had a roommate once who was like, She was in a relationship, and it was like a troubled relationship. And she was walking to her acting class, and the road was blocked. And so she had to like walk a different path, and that path took her past her boyfriend's house. And she told me this story, and her version of that story was that the universe wanted her to go talk to her boyfriend and work it out. And I was like, right, they shut down Hollywood Boulevard for your relationship. The universe did that.
Yeah.
But like, that's what she wanted the sign to be.
Yeah.
And so our gut tells us what we want the sign to be, but sometimes our gut is fear.
Well, and also, I mean, she could have interpreted that like I passed by his house to like, and the sign was like I'm on the wrong road, or do you know what I mean? Like I should break up because like the road's not open, or like there's a lot of
So
interpretation.
we should be aware that like that's a game that our own mind is playing with us. Our gut is there to tell us what our mind wants us to do, or our instinct, but sometimes our instincts are fear.
Yeah.
So we have to like, that's why like, you can have a gut feeling, and then you can talk to a lot of people. And then what you'll say is, I changed my mind.
Yeah.
You change your mind, but you change your gut too. But once you've changed it, then it was a mind thing, not a gut thing.
What's interesting because I feel like I've definitely had a lot of moments where people have pushed back on things for me, where people are like, oh, don't do that, or that's one more thing you're doing, or do you really want to take on another? And I do a lot.
I'm like, I'm laughing because I am very familiar with that.
I'm a doer. But I feel like I definitely, in my life at least, and I do think I have very supportive friends, and I think I have people who love me and believe in me, thank God. But I also think there's been a lot of moments where it's really been me being like, no, I think I can.
That's not your gut. That's not your gut. That is knowing who you are. And that's, I think, really important. I know I've learned who I am over a long time. We try, our whole lives are trial and error. And I have learned, like when I was in high school, I decided, okay, I'm really divided. I'm like this smart girl, and I'm also a theater girl. And in my 17-year-old brain, I was like, you can only do one thing. So I went to a conservatory because I was like, I want to go on Broadway. So I'm going to go to a conservatory. And I was like, within weeks, I was begging other people to do their homework.
Yeah.
Because I needed to do both. And I eventually ended up at NYU, where I had like 3 majors, a minor. I was on a sports team. I was doing theater. I worked 2 jobs, and I interned. And I have learned over time that I am the best me when I am so busy I'm exhausted. I'm smarter, I do better, and if I am not busy, and even when I am busy, I am exhausted, and I will whine a lot. But if I am not whining, I am depressed.
Yeah.
And that's not good for me. I don't want to be depressed. So is it exhausting to be married to me? Yes. I would not advise it.
But will you build an amazing business? Yes.
And I know I know who I am.
Yeah.
And I cannot change it. And so that's not a gut thing. That is, I've lived this. I have tried all of the paths, and if I am not busy, I'm on my couch watching a lot of TV, feeling like a loser.
No.
I mean, the story I tell myself is that I'm lazy. And like for everyone who knows me, they were like, how would you think that about yourself? But if I feel like I'm always pulled to the couch.
Well, it's interesting because to me, I've had moments in my life. This is actually something that I've worked on a lot in myself and in therapy. But I used to have a lot similar, but different. This thought of like, if I'm ever not in my productivity, then I'm being lazy and I'm not doing enough. And it's like this not enoughness story of like, you're not allowed to like take a long bath or watch a full show, or you know what I mean?
I'm not allowed. I think that's all I want to do.
Well, for me, it's like, I used to get really uncomfortable just giving myself permission.
Yeah.
Because some part of me was like, you're trying to do this and this and this, and look at you, lazy piece of, just sitting here enjoying a full show. Like, how dare you? Like, and obviously, like, now that I have 2 small kids, it's way harder to do those things.
So hard.
Way harder. But I also think what they've given me is like, it's almost like unlocked like a different version of myself that's like, can speak to that part and go like, no, F you. I get to take my long nap and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I get to like, because if not, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
And I have to be able to take some breaks sometimes.
And also, I do sometimes feel like if I'm taking a break and I'm like playing a game with my kids or watching, like my daughter and I just watched all of Gilmore Girls together. That's
Oh.
bonding, not laziness.
Yeah, that's true. That is positive.
So I feel
It's not about what box we put it in, but yeah.
yes, so much of it is, and I do because I do like to be lazy. My body likes being a couch potato. I will just give myself like, oh, you know, if I'm sick or if I'm just feeling depressed, I'm like, I'm depressed right now and I'm going to give myself a day to just lean into it. I'm going to lean in.
I do that too. I actually do that too. And I think that's a piece of advice that I would give to other people. I think is actually really helpful because I used to never lean into it because I was so scared of leaning into it, of giving myself permission, of even enjoying the break, of like, because it's like, what if in the break I realize that actually I'm meant for nothing? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, what if in my 1 hour bath, I have this realization that I'm never going to do anything in my life? No, but the point is though that recently, and I've worked through this a lot, giving myself permission to be like, you know what, I'm having an off day and that's okay. Or I'm in a certain mood and that's okay. Or and this happens to me a lot too because I'm generally speaking like a pretty bubbly, happy person.
Yeah.
And so like sometimes even my husband will be like I might just be quiet, like not even mean, just like quiet. And he's like, whoa, like what is happening? Like, and I'm
I'm
like,
gonna say that about you. It also is like you have a responsibility because you've created that responsibility inside of your own self to bring positive energy at a very high level all the time. And so it feels like you're not supposed to have a different feeling because you're Selena and Selena has to be happy. And if other people are unhappy, you're gonna cheer them up and you're gonna lift. And if you're not the one lifting, are you allowed to be down? Are you allowed to bring down the mood? Or are you being a bad girl doing that? And I've gotten very, I wasn't the joy all the time. That's not, I don't bring as much of that, but I didn't want to make anyone upset ever. And people don't like it if you're unhappy. And, I've had like a really hard personal time, like in the past couple of years with a lot of death and stuff. And I've gotten really comfortable just being like, no, I'm really sad right now, but I'm not supposed to be sad.
yeah, and that's okay.
Knowing that you're supposed to, like, just saying like out loud, like like my dad just died, I'm supposed to be sad.
Yeah.
Made it like I wasn't judgmental over the sad. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be really sad right now.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be sad.
But I think, by the way, I think that's really interesting what you just said about not being judgmental about it, because that's actually one of the things that I feel like really liberated me is there's so much judgment on the feeling.
Yep.
We're judging ourselves for feeling a certain way.
Yep.
And so by doing that, we're actually taking it. It's almost like you feel bad and then mad for feeling bad and then sad. It's like, so you're just adding like
bullying yourself for no reason.
And for no reason, if you just take the judgment away, you're just like, I'm having a negative feeling and that's okay.
And it's so important to like model that for your kids too, which is like, I noticed that like I realized really early on how parents accidentally turn their kids into bullies. I remember like when our kids were like, when our daughter was little, like we were like health food people, like my husband in particular, he's like super like like there was no processed anything. And I remember like dropping our daughter off and her saying like other kids got soda in their lunches. And I was almost like, well, I almost had the instinct to be like, well, other people might not care about their kids' health. And I was like, everyone cares about their kids' health. Yeah. And shit, if I say that, I'm telling my daughter that these kids have parents that are like negligent. And that's not true. Yeah. They're not negligent. Yeah. And I like was just like, well, people have different rules and this is our rule. And I said that instead. But I caught myself almost saying something that would have made her look at other kids in a way that was super judgmental. And that's not what I meant to do. Yeah. And I see how that happens out of a place of like love and trying to protect your kids and teach them about your values. Yeah. You end up accidentally teaching them that other people's values are bad.
Or even that their feelings aren't allowed. Like it's happened to me before. Like I had someone who was helping me take care of my daughter on an occasion, and she was like crying hysterically, and this person was like, "Oh, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Just it's okay, just stop crying. It's everything's gonna be," and I realized hearing it from someone else that it was like, whoa, like don't tell her to stop. She's allowed to cry because like in my mind, it's like that's where it all begins. It's like you don't have permission to cry. Crying is very uncomfortable. Everyone's really uncomfortable that you're crying, so just stop.
When you have a son too, so it's really important with him.
Yeah.
Let him cry.
Let him cry because we need to cry. And I think that's where we get all this stuff in our head about like being uncomfortable with our own feelings and all these things.
Absolutely.
Um,
It starts really young. Kids look
really
at
young.
us.
Yeah. So speaking of big feelings, no, I'm obsessed with your musical that you wrote. So tell me a little bit about, first of all, how did this idea start? And how did you actually, and speak about being the train, by the way, I saw a fully like produced version of it with like music, with like there was some choreography, it was acted out.
Scope creep on that workshop.
No, but it was incredible. I mean, it was incredible. And I know because I live it, how much it takes to put something like that together. And it's so good. And I'm curious, like, how long did it take to get there? Where did it start? And how can you help other people start if they want to do something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start by saying I'm in my 40s now, and I am.
What?
How'd I know, right?
Ah.
And I went to an event the other night. And you had to like write your self doubt and like put it in a shredder. And I wrote like, I'm afraid it's too late for me. And my co-writer, who is a decade younger than me, I looked over and she wrote the exact same thing. And so that is devastating, and it's real, and I can't make that fear go away. But seeing that someone 10 years younger than me still felt that way too, it sucks. But
it's not true.
it's true or it's not. Like if we make it, it's not too late. If we don't, it wasn't because it wasn't too late either.
No, but but it's really amazing, and it's not. It can't be. It can't be too late because I saw it. So
That's right.
so it's gonna work.
So-
The end. But tell me how it
Yeah.
started.
So I always did theater. I did theater my whole life. I did theater even when I was busy with other things. While I was in law school, I did theater. When I was working at a law firm, I did theater. I started a theater company while I was at a law firm. And the idea of starting my own theater company was because the rehearsal schedule didn't work with I had a baby and I had a crazy job. And I was like, well, I can't find my way into these other companies. What if I build my own company that works around my schedule and the schedule of other people that are working professionals that also want to do theater? Because I'm not the only one.
Interesting.
And so my friends and I started a theater company dedicated to working professionals.
I
And
like that.
we did board meetings in my house after my daughter was asleep, and we worked it around because I couldn't fit my way into the other ones, right?
Yeah.
And so we built a whole theater company, and we went from, $5,000 a year operating budget to $400,000 when I left.
Wow.
So,
Incredible.
I made no money off of that because I only start businesses where I make no money, and it's
But that
profit.
isn't accurate. We're changing that story.
Right. But historically, but I built a community,
Yeah.
right? And I'm incredibly proud of that. And so theater was always something I did. I was an actor and a producer, but I never thought of myself as a writer. And I dabbled a little bit when I was in undergrad. There was a parody show that NYU did called FNYU, Forbidden NYU. And I wrote 2 songs for that. And they're still done to this day. That was like 15 years ago. And the school still does them. And I was like, oh, that's fun, but it was parody, right? Then I had, during the pandemic, my partner now, Lisa, my writing partner, she's a composer. And she was like, hey, Jackie, like, let's write a musical. And the pandemic was a very busy time for me. I worked in the movie theater industry. Our whole industry was shut down. I was working 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
And Lisa's like, let's write a musical. She's an engineer, by the way. She worked for NASA at the time. She's a rocket scientist. I'm a lawyer, trade association executive. And we wrote a musical like in 2 weeks that took
Wow.
place in it was called COVID baking competition. So it was about people, the idea was let's write a musical where everyone will necessarily be in their own homes. So it was a, TV baking competition.
Oh, wow.
You had to cook with the things that you had in your home, and then you had to Postmates to the judges, right?
Wow.
I mean, we wrote it in 2 weeks. We got our cast, they recorded it, we edited it, and it was online because we wanted to have it online before the shutdown ended in 3 weeks as we thought it would end. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
But anyway, like we did that. Then we did another one. We had so much fun doing it. And it was so hard and so fast. And then Lisa was like, okay, Jackie, now we're going to join this writing program, NMI, New Musicals Inc. They do almost a year-long course. So we signed up for this course again during the craziest time.
How often was this course?
It was weekly, but we also had a crazy amount of assignments.
Okay, so it was like homework.
Oh yeah, it was so hard. It was so hard because you'd have to write a song based on this book or this movie or this play. So we'd have to read and then write and then
how incredible the amount of like creative juice just coming out.
And during a time where I was stuck at home, I felt I had no control. I was so scared and I was making.
Yeah.
And so then Lisa and we became like these writing partners, and we started talking about writing a real musical. And I've always been very interested in the American dream as a concept. And for a long time, I really wanted to do a musical version of this book, The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. And I was going to call it The Escapist. And
this was after you had finished the whole course.
But like for a long time, I thought about this particular book.
Okay.
And because it's about the American dream. But then I gave up on it for multiple reasons, and now it's at the Met. So someone got the rights to it and is making money off of it. I thought of it first, though. But anyway, so I kind of abandoned it and just didn't think that was in the cards for me. And Lisa she's such a reliable partner. She works just as hard as I do. So I can trust her, right? I can trust that if I write lyrics to something, she will actually do the music. And she's just as busy as I am, and she will do it. And so I all of a sudden had this person I trusted. And we had developed this pattern during COVID where she'd come to my house once a week and we'd just stay up till late in the night, like writing. And we had this idea to write a musical about the American dream for women. And the idea was, let's set it in the world of multi-level marketing, because multi-level marketing is a part of the economy that pretends to be for women left outside of capitalism. And it pretends to be an alternative that works on your time and works around your schedule.
Yeah.
But in reality, it is largely rigged towards those who are already resourced. Only a small portion of the women involved, and MLMs are very heavily female in their workforce.
Yeah.
But the board level is still male dominated. They're very, it's a government endorsed pyramid scheme. So it's not a pyramid scheme as long as you follow certain rules. But it has a low success rate. But our idea was not to mock MLMs, because to mock an MLM is to mock the women who have a real need that are being ignored. So really it was about, why are we ignoring women in capitalism, and how is this sector of capitalism preying on female empowerment and those narratives, and how do we get sucked into these narratives, and how does our own womanhood and sense of self interplay with capitalism, with a type of economic structure that is very male coded. And so we had been thinking about this idea, and then Lisa got pregnant, the pandemic got really busy, and we kind of left it to the side. And then I got fired. And I got fired in a way that was really violent.
Yeah.
It was really brutal. And I didn't think I could be fired. I thought I was too essential to my organization. I thought, I'm a good girl and I'm going to do my job. And as long as I'm a good girl and do my job and do it well, I can't be fired.
Yeah.
And I was. And it was an awakening, right? And so many people have gone through similar things, right? The whole entertainment industry has had lots and lots of layoffs and things like that. So I know I'm not alone. I don't pretend to be alone, but I all of a sudden had something to say.
Yeah.
And it was more important to me to say something than to be afraid to say something.
Yeah.
And so that was the impetus. It was just like, this is the right time. If I'm going to write about women and women's stories, and I'm going to write about the American dream, I'm going to write it from this place.
Like, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because
Right
the women of the women of the world are angry. I am not the only angry woman in this world. We are all feeling like, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
How do we do this right?
You can feel, or from my experience of watching it, you can feel it was written from a deeply connected emotional place because it goes there. It goes to a very deep emotional place, which I think is very rare. And I think, to me at least, really separates, because I'm a big musical lover and I watch a lot of musicals and I love musicals.
Me too.
But some musicals are fun and other musicals are fun and deep. And that second kind are the ones that I can watch again and again and again, the ones that I really feel, and not to say like I can still enjoy a fun, easy breezy musical, but the ones that have like a deeper message that connect on like an emotional level really kind of take you to the next, and that's what you guys wrote.
I really appreciate that because, yeah, I mean, like, we do want it to be fun, right? The musical is fun.
It is.
It's about something really relatable and it has kind of a dark twist. But is it a dark twist or is it an empowering twist, right? I think people will disagree. And the score it's pop music. We've got a boy band number. We wrote it, going back to your job as a filmmaker, it's a business. That's how we approach this. Lisa, my co-writer, she ran the theater company with me. We also have another partner, Nikki, who is a PhD. So we've got literally a doctor, a lawyer, and engineer in our trio.
And that's how you get a musical.
Right. And Nikki, again, we're all three people that are very serious women with serious jobs who've always found a role for theater. And we found our people in theater and we are our silliest, gayest selves there. And that's really important. That's a really important side of me. And I've had people not understand that and kind of want me to tone that part of myself down. And I never will. I've never been willing to even engage in that thought experiment or anything because I will always be the most successful by being wholly me. But we ran a theater company and we thought about what a theater company needs, right? The theater, so our show is scalable, right? We were we can have a huge cast if you're a community theater and you want a lot of roles for women. We have 4 parts for men that could be 8 parts for men if you have extra men, but lots of smaller theater companies, casting men is really challenging. So it can be 4 men playing those different parts.
Yeah.
It can be big or small depending on your budget and your needs. It is fun. The marketing is built into the show. Our MLM is called Lumaplex. So we have a Lumaplex Instagram handle and we've got people taking selfies on stage because they're at convention and things like that. And then they tag Lumaplex. And so now our vision is that any theater company who's doing a production of this show will have their pictures on this Lumaplex worldwide. And it's all these different pictures of convention. And so you're part of a bigger community. And the marketing is at the forefront, as we're building.
Well, and also then it's a really fun photo opportunity. And then people get to all want to take a picture when they're convention.
Yes. And
I love that.
We built our step and repeat for our workshop and it had our Upline logo, but it also had our Lumaplex logo. Lumaplex was sponsoring it. And that's so fun. So we also had a lot of fun thinking about what the brand is, what the audience is. We had our audience in our mind from the beginning, and we want to really honor that audience first and foremost, and really cater to them, and then hopefully build out from there. We really assumed that women were going to be the people most interested in our show, and we were shocked. And I mean, we still talk about this. The men that auditioned for the show that we'd never met before. And by the way, this is a workshop. No one got paid anything. The men that came out to participate in the show,
they were incredible.
And they were not just incredible, they loved being part of it.
Yeah.
They were
incredible.
singing the songs on the side. They came with like an amazing attitude every day. We had like we made everyone wear like pink crop tops. Our like band wore them. We had a bass player like wearing a pink crop top, like a big tall man, and he was like into it. And the men have been like very into it, and also sharing stories about my mom was involved in one of these, or my sister, and they felt the story was really personal to them too. And that's really incredible because again, the show was intended to be really specific, really personal, and that's what they tell you all the time, right? The more specific something is, the more universal.
But it is, because but it
really
is.
sound.
And it's funny because there's two things that you touched on that I feel like I relate to, and also that I think is just good advice for other people as well, is like, one, for me at least, I know there's been a lot of moments in my life where people have been like, oh, you're too giggly, you're too bubbly, you should tone it down. You should be more serious. People will take you more seriously if you can just be a little calmer, a little stiller, a little less loud. And it's funny because actually one of the stories that I love telling, but I think it's so important to stay fun. Is when we were doing our AFI thesis, I remember one of my friends had given me this whole speech, and he was like, you have a lot of potential. He was a very good friend. But he was kind of one of those people that likes to,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah. So he was like, you have a lot of potential, but you just really need to take yourself more seriously and tone yourself down if you really want to have a shot of being really good. And I was like, like agree to disagree, but okay. And then I remember I took this meeting for our thesis with like the head of the entire production of AFI. She was like the person who was in charge of all the productions. And we had this meeting, and she walked out of the meeting and she came into like the producer's den, and my friend who was one of the producers was in there, and she literally was like, you guys, you're all taking this way too seriously. She was like, I just had a meeting with Selena for her thesis, and I have not laughed like that in years. And she was like, and boy, did I need that. And I just want you to know that, like, let's all have a little more fun, don't you think? Like, it's getting too tense over here. And I was just like, oh, it was so nice. Like, it just came naturally from her because she genuinely had like a fun experience during our thesis conversation. But it was also just like such a recognition. And I think it's so important for people to realize, and especially women, because women are told so often how to behave.
Women get personality feedback on their
All the time.
On their reviews, and men don't ever.
Yeah. And I just think it's inaccurate. I think actually you get to be exactly who you are, and then you get to surround yourself with the people who can see and value that.
It's not only inaccurate, it's like your personality is a defense. The women's personalities are all defense mechanisms.
Yeah.
Like, especially smart women. If you were not fun, do you know how scary you would be to people? Like, I'm sorry. You take all of that and you channel it into like seriousness? No fucking way. Every dick in the room is shriveled. They're terrified. Like, I grew up and like, I remember like, I was really shy growing up. I was super, super shy, and I was bullied all the time. And I was like, people didn't like me. And then like later on in high school, I found out, like, I got a cool girl became my friend, and then she kind of vouched for me. And so people started apologizing to me, and they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were just stuck up because you've been on Broadway. And I was like, well, I've never been on Broadway. I never told you that. What a awesome like trait to put on me. But then I was like, okay, I'm going to learn my lesson and I'll go and be outgoing. I studied abroad, and I was like, no one knows me here. I'll pretend to be a confident person. And then everyone thought I was stuck up because I was confident. And I was like, oh, I bring out something in people that everyone thinks I think I'm better than them. And I'm like, if you knew that in my brain was just me bullying myself all the time.
I don't feel that at all.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't feel that way. And that's why you're compensating by trying to make everyone feel welcome. And look, I'm a party. Join my party. You're invited to this party. I would love to have you here. I am not against you. Let's all laugh, because there's room for laughter for all. You are trying so hard to make sure everyone knows, because when you are you, there are enough people that are like, oh, I get it. She thinks she's better than me. She thinks she's so smart. And so, you're getting this advice that's not good advice, because literally, serious Selena is so scary. No, thank you. No, this is
Seriously.
like, you think that this is light and easy breezy? There's nothing light or easy breezy about you. Just because you're laughing doesn't mean you're not as intense as fuck. You're super fucking. Who's more serious than you? You can't do this and be like, "Hi, I'm Selena. Be the fucking train, bitches." It's a fun train. I'm building my empire with soil.
I'm building my empire.
Yeah, a dude could be scary. You can't do that. No one's hopping on your train. They're scared.
That's true. That's interesting. Wow. This was very revelatory for me. I didn't realize how much I was gonna learn about myself. I love
It's
it.
all in the building.
Exactly. That's so interesting though, because I feel like, well, I guess what it comes down to is that any woman who's smart, who's doing cool things, I'm personally just so excited to be people like that. And I'm so behind. That's what I want. I want more empowered women to do incredible things. But you're right that not everyone feels
Yeah, they feel like you're trying to compete with them.
Yeah.
And you have to spend so much time being like, I am about bringing more people.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess sort of you have to like say fuck it to those people, but I can't do it. So I still, you know, I don't like being in rooms where I know people don't want me. I don't like knowing that people are saying mean things about me behind my back. Like, it still fucking hurts.
Yeah.
But, you know, I do know that the people that I have worked with and the people that do like me will all say the same things about me.
Yeah.
Just, you know, like Jackie, like, is smart. Jackie gives a fuck. And Jackie tries to, make the world better.
Yeah.
I think anyone who really knows me knows that I actually, like, spend way more of my time and energy trying to make the world better and build communities where I can, you know.
And also, you're incredibly reliable. And I will say this because I'm very reliable too, and it's actually very rare.
Yeah.
And that was the second thing I was going to say that really stuck out to me in terms of a lesson for other people who are listening or watching is it seems like your writing partner is very reliable.
Yes.
And so that's so key. And I think that more and more people forget how much that matters. That's like a huge piece I think people don't talk about enough because everyone wants to do something and make something and create something. But then people don't show up for it.
Yep.
And people say they're going to show up for it, but then they don't. And the thing is, when you find people who show up like you show up, then you can move mountains.
Yes.
You can write a musical in 2 weeks because you're both showing up.
Yep.
And to me, I will shout out my husband, Dan, who's obviously my business partner. And he is incredibly reliable, but it makes a world of difference. I would not have been able to do any of the things that I have done or be where I am in my career without having a person who literally lives with me and is as reliable as I am because we keep each other accountable.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the battle that I think we don't even think about.
Yeah.
So
And it goes back to those 5 people, right?
Yeah.
Who are your 5 people?
Yeah.
And if your 5 people are not reliable,
Yeah.
if they're just like drinking buddies or whatever it is, like
Yeah.
I had one of my best friends for a very long time. I don't think she ever liked me. You know, she didn't. She always kind of like, he's like make fun of me. Like that was like her, that was, you know, oh, Jackie is like, you're a ridiculous, I like love ridiculous people. You're a ridiculous person. And I kind of like laughed along with it. But
that was her own insecurities.
no, I know. But, you know, I spent a lot of time with her. And that voice in my head made me embarrassed to want to write musicals because that's too sincere.
Yeah.
You know, and to try hard because that's, you know, that's embarrassing.
Because try hard is cringe.
So cringe.
Well, and that's but it's so not. It's so cool to try hard, guys.
Honestly, the best thing in my life is that my 12-year-old thinks I'm cool.
Yeah.
She like brags about
And
me.
your 12-year-old is very cool.
She's not cool.
So there you go. I think she's so cool. I love her.
I love
She's
her.
like, she's me.
She's
She has so much energy. She's so like, she's just so
she is.
authentic. I love her. So
super authentic.
and I think authentic is cool.
Me too. And she's gonna find her people.
Yeah.
Right. And she's like proud to be my daughter, and she's like that. She's proud that I'm writing. she's proud that like of all the things I do. And she tells me that, and she brags about me to her friends. And I'm like, you know,
That's
so I
wonderful.
had a friend who thought I was lame. I am kind of lame. And like, that's okay because I would
Right.
rather be sincere and cringe than aloof.
Well, I agree, but you're not lame. But I agree. I agree that
I write
authentic,
musicals.
authentic and cringe. I love musicals.
I don't. Well, maybe you're also a little cringe.
I'm definitely cringe.
So there you go.
There's definitely no. That's the hardest part about being me is that I'm cringe because I try so hard all the time, and I try very in front of everybody, vocally all the time in people's faces. I try new things. I'm constantly trying something else, and so it's super cringe because it's like stop trying all the time in different ways and different things, and but I can't help it.
Well, and I think people get really confused about ego too, right? Like I think the people that don't like me, they think, oh, Jackie, because I am so in front of things, right? I can't shut my mouth. I have to be an advocate. It's just, I've been this way since birth, but it's always because I'm believing in something, right? I want to make the world better. I want to build that community. But I think people think, oh, Jackie wants her name on things or and it's like, I do have an ego. Everyone has an ego. And my ego, I use the metaphor of ego cookies. And like I get fed, like I get the most ego cookies when I feel like I've made an impact, when I feel like advice I gave was listened to, when I feel like I see my fingerprints on something that changed as a result, when I know my effort led to something existing where it wasn't there before. And I think all of us should own our egos and like own that like feeling good about the time that we spend doing things is really important. I think we should feel proud of ourselves.
Yeah.
And drive ourselves towards those things that make us proud. And also, I think the more we're aware of our ego, we can also make sure to avoid ego traps, right? Avoid going to places that are just there to give us empty calories, right? Like, I need to make sure I'm not stuffing myself on cookies just to feed my ego, right? And so I'm really mindful of that. I'm hyper aware of like, what are my values? What are my goals? Am I acting in alignment with those values? And if I'm doing that and I'm making an impact, I feel really proud of myself. And I tell my kids I'm proud of myself and they're proud of me. And like, that's the best I can do. So if you're out here doing this stuff, and it's not because you're an egomaniac, it's because you believe your voice and your confidence, this weirdness that you were born with, where you're actually able to stand in front of people and you can't shut the fuck up because that's how you were born, can make other people braver by proxy.
Well, and by the way, so thank you so much for saying that because I actually think that my best moments in when I think about, impact is literally people who have said, and I truly believe, like, you trying the way you try and putting yourself out there the way you're putting yourself out there has actually led me to do this thing I wasn't going to do.
Yeah.
And that's happened to me multiple times in different ways, and people have, and so it is that cringe aspect,
Scary.
but that maybe unlocks or gives someone else permission to maybe be a little more extra than they felt like they could be, or unlock some sort of creative venture that they were too scared to try. And just going like, look at Selena. She fails constantly in front of everyone and she gets back up and she does it again and then she does something else. And
I actually don't think anyone thinks it. That's the funny thing, right? Is that like, I don't think anyone's thinking, oh, Selena's failing. I think that's why they're thinking like, oh, Selena's always succeeding. I know. And that's the difference, right? Because you're out there, you just being an advocate, you just being positive, you just telling your story automatically makes people feel that you are successful. And so even though your version of the story is I'm out here failing and talking about it honestly, the way people are reading that is look at Selena succeeding over and over and over again. And it's not what you're saying. It's not what you're saying, but you are succeeding because what you are doing is the thing that is hardest for everyone else is you are willing to try and you are willing to learn. And that is so scary.
Yeah. And so are you. And that's why you are the train. And that's why I have you come here today.
Like a boost.
Yeah. And so We do have to wrap up, but what is one piece of advice that you would give to anyone listening to this, whether it's filmmakers or creative entrepreneurs, something that you feel like you've learned on your journey, or that you think would be really helpful?
I think the most important thing anyone can do is to identify things that really scare them and then do them anyway. Talk to all your friends, tell all your friends you're terrified, and then do them. Because when I was at the trade body, I was kind of being positioned for leadership, and I had to do a panel. First, my boss had me do a panel, and I was so scared. And I told my colleague how scared I was, and she helped me prep. And then I did. And then, okay. And then there was then I had to interview an Oscar winner in front of all of our members. And I was terrified and I thought I was going to fail. And then I did it. I had to give a speech in front of Scorsese and DiCaprio. And I did it. And by the time I got to that point, which was like a very high stakes moment, I had done so many scary things that I was terrified to do that I felt not scared that time because I was ready. I practiced and practiced and practiced. And, I was terrified the first time I had to do a podcast. I was just like, I'm going to fuck up. And now I've done them.
I literally feel it's crazy to me that you say that, because when someone hears you speak on a panel, you sound like a professional public speaker.
I am not. And I tell my kids this, this is this, way to think of it is anytime you are playing a video game, you finally beat a level. And then what happens first when you get to the next level? You die. You die. And you die. And then you pass that level. And then as soon as you get to the next level, you die. And that's okay. That's how you win games, by dying a lot of times.
Yeah.
So you just got to keep dying.
And where can people find everything that is growing and building with the Fithian Group, and also your musical? And you can say that directly here.
Okay, so you can kind of just Google attend the Fithian Group. We have a website, but you'll find us. You can find me on LinkedIn. So Jackie Brenneman, just find me on LinkedIn, send me a DM.
That's how we literally did everything.
That I live and breathe on LinkedIn now, which is weird. And then Upline is, we are on Instagram. We're at Upline the Musical. We also have a website that's probably uplinethemusical.com, but you can find it. Google Jackie Brenneman Upline Musical. You'll find it. That's what Google's for, right? But I think it's at Upline the Musical. And yeah, we're trying to figure out next steps. Hopefully a bigger, fully produced version in Los Angeles soon.
It's happening. I know it's happening. It's happening. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. That was so fun.